Hello, welcome to my channel Nightlight Science Stories. When you walk through a dense, ancient forest, you feel a profound silence. You see trees standing like solitary pillars, separated by empty space. We assume they are lonely giants fighting for sunlight, indifferent to their neighbors. But this is a grand illusion. Beneath your boots, in the dark soil, a trillion thin threads are weaving a secret conversation. You are standing on top of the most complex social network in the universe, and it is watching you right now. The forest floor is not just dirt. It is a biological circuit board. While the wind rustles the leaves above, a much louder conversation is happening below, in a frequency we cannot hear. This underground world is teeming with electrical signals and chemical data packets. It challenges everything we thought we knew about intelligence. We are about to descend into the soil to uncover a hidden civilization that has been thriving here for millions of years. This is the Mycelium Network, the Earth's natural internet. It is not a plant, and it is not an animal. It is a kingdom of its own. If you picked up just a single teaspoon of healthy soil, it would contain nearly 10 kilometers of fungal wiring. This network connects every tree, every flower, and every blade of grass. While we look up at the leaves dancing in the wind, the true intelligence of the forest is hiding in the eternal darkness below. Scientists call it the Wood Wide Web. It turns a forest from a collection of individuals into a superorganism. Through these fungal pipelines, trees exchange carbon, water, and nutrients. But they also trade information. An old oak tree can send sugar to a shaded sapling that is too small to reach the sun. It is a social welfare system that existed millions of years before humans invented the wheel. The forest takes care of its own children. Imagine a city where the rich share their wealth with the poor automatically. In the forest, this is reality. The mycelium acts as the mediator, taxing the strong to support the weak. This ensures the survival of the entire ecosystem, rather than just one dominant tree. It is a lesson in cooperation written in biological code, but do not mistake this for pure kindness. The fungi demand a tax of their own, taking the cut of the sugar for their services. This symbiotic relationship is the foundation of life on land. Without this underground trade, most of the world's forest would collapse. The fungi extend the root systems of trees effectively by thousands of times, allowing them to drink from distant water sources. It is a partnership so tight that at the cellular level, the root and the fungus fuse together. They become a single functional unit, blurring the line between two distinct species. But this network is not just about charity. It is also a military surveillance system. When a beetle attacks a pine tree, the victim releases chemical signals into the fungal web. Within hours, neighboring trees who haven't been touched yet begin to produce toxic enzymes to defend themselves. They know the enemy is coming before it even arrives. The forest is not passive scenery. It is a sentient fortress that talks, plans, and fights back in silence. This rapid communication network allows the forest to act like a swarm intelligence. Information travels silently through the dark earth, warning the community of drought, disease, or insect invasion. It suggests that a forest is not a collection of trees, but a single massive entity with billions of wooden limbs. When you cut down a tree, the network feels the loss. The surrounding trees may even dump their excess resources into the dying stump. Long before trees dominated the skyline, giant fungi ruled the earth. 400 million years ago, towering mushrooms called prototaxites stood 8 meters tall, while plants were just knee-high moss. They are the original architects of our planet's biosphere. They broke down the rock to create the very soil we rely on for agriculture today. We are essentially guests in a world built and maintained by these silent subterranean engineers of the past. These ancient giants prepared the world for us. They mined the rocks for minerals and created the fertile layer that allows modern forests to exist. Even today, fungi are the primary decomposers, the reason why the earth isn't covered in layers of dead things. They are the masters of death, turning the end of one life into the beginning of another. In the fungal kingdom, death is not a termination. It is simply a resource reallocation strategy. The structure of the mycelium network bears a haunting resemblance to the neural networks in the human brain. Under a microscope, the patterns of fungal threads and our brain cells are almost identical. They both use electrolytes and electrical impulses to transmit data. Is it possible that the forest is not just alive, but actually thinking? We define intelligence by speed, but perhaps the Earth just thinks on a timeline we can't comprehend. A thought in your brain takes milliseconds. A thought in the forest might take days or even seasons. To us, they seem frozen in time. But if you sped up the footage of a forest by 1,000 times, you would see a dynamic, pulsating entity, constantly moving resources, reacting to threats, and making decisions. We are like mayflies buzzing around a sleeping giant, too fast and too short-lived to notice that the mountain is actually breathing. But this network is not purely benevolent. There's a dark side to the Wood Wide Web. Just as hackers can exploit the internet, some plants have learned to hack the fungal network. Orchids and phantom plants plug into the system to steal nutrients without giving anything back. They are the vampires of the vegetal world. The underground is a place of cooperation, yes, but it is also a silent battlefield of subterfuge and resource theft. These parasitic plants have lost the ability to photosynthesize because they don't need to. Why work for sunlight when you can steal sugar from the underground cable? They appear ghost white and eerie in the dark forest, living entirely off the labor of others. It shows that wherever a network exists, corruption eventually follows. The forest has its own criminals, its own spies, and its own silent wars that rage beneath the ferns. Consider the mystery of the living stump. Hikers often find tree stumps cut down decades ago that are still green and living on the inside. Without leaves, how do they survive? The answer is the network. The surrounding trees, perhaps its own children, are keeping the old stump on life support, pumping it with sugar and water. Why would evolution allow this waste of resources? Perhaps the old stump still holds value. It is possible that these ancient stumps act as memory banks. Even without leaves, they might store immunological memory or genetic history that benefits the group. Or perhaps, the bond between trees is simply stronger than we can scientifically justify. It suggests a level of communal care that rivals the most compassionate human societies. In the forest, no one is truly left behind as long as they are connected to the web. Mapping this network is one of the hardest challenges in science. It is fragile, microscopic, and everywhere. But recent studies using radioactive tracers have proven the flow of goods. We have seen carbon move from a birch tree to a fir tree in real time. This shatters the old Darwinian idea that nature is purely a competition of survival of the fittest. Here, survival depends on survival of the most connected. Connectivity is the currency of the forest. The isolated tree is the first to die in a drought. The connected tree draws from the collective reservoir of water held by the community. This changes our entire philosophical view of nature. It is not a war of all against all. It is a vast collaborative alliance. The forest is a socialist utopia where the collective good outweighs individual greed, governed by the laws of fungal economics. As we stand in the forest, we must realize we are walking on the roof of another world. A world that is busy, loud, and incredibly fast-paced if you know how to listen. The mycelium is the glue that holds the biosphere together. It is the unspoken ruler of the land. We build our concrete cities and digital webs, thinking we are the masters of connection, but we are merely imitating the ancient masters. We have only scratched the surface of this underground cosmos. What else are they saying? Do they feel pain? Do they dream? As we move deeper into this documentary, we will look for the mother trees, the central hubs of this network. These Mycelium hold the wisdom of the forest. And we will ask the terrifying question, if the forest is conscious, what does it think of us? The journey has only just begun. Deep within the ancient grove, the mother trees stand as the central pillars of the community. These are not just the oldest giants. They are the busiest hubs of the network, connected to hundreds of other trees via the fungal threads. Think of them as the root servers of the forest's internet. Without them, the chaotic chatter of the undergrowth would have no direction. They are the elders holding the tribe together against the elements. Science has confirmed that these matriarchs are incredibly sophisticated. Through isotope tracing, we have watched them manage the resources of the entire grove. When winter approaches, they redistribute their stored sugars to the younger, weaker trees that haven't developed strong root systems yet. It is a deliberate act of care. The survival of the forest depends on these hubs remaining standing, acting as the guardians of the next generation. But the connection goes even deeper than general charity. Mother trees can recognize their own kin. Studies show that when a mother tree's roots encounter the roots of its own seedlings, it reduces its competitive behavior. It actually makes space underground for its children to grow. It sends them more carbon and signals than it sends to strangers. This creates a family unit within the chaos of the forest, a dynasty of wood and leaf. This discovery shatters the idea that plants are blind automatons. They have a sense of self and family. They nurture their offspring with a dedication that rivals many animals. If you walk through a forest, you aren't just walking past random vegetation. You are walking through living family rooms, witnessing silent acts of parenting that have been going on for centuries. The forest is built on bloodlines, legacy, and maternal instinct. The most poignant moment in the forest occurs at the time of death. When a mother tree is dying, it doesn't just fade away. In its final days, it dumps its remaining carbon reserves into the network. It liquidates its life savings and transfers the wealth to its neighbors and kin. It is a final will and testament executed in biological code. I am leaving. Take my energy and continue the fight. It is a noble sacrifice for the collective. But along with the nutrients, the dying tree might be passing on something more valuable: data. Some scientists believe this final pulse contains defense signals, a library of immunological wisdom gained over centuries of fighting pests and diseases. The dying elder uploads its knowledge to the cloud, so the young ones don't have to learn the hard way. The wisdom of the ancestors is physically stored in the bodies of the living. This transfer of information creates a form of collective memory. A forest that has survived a great drought remembers how to survive the next one. The young trees, who have never seen a drought, react faster because they are plugged into the network of the elders who have. The memory is not in a brain. It is distributed across the landscape. The forest learns from history, unlike humans who often seem doomed to repeat the same mistakes. This suggests that an old-growth forest is not just a collection of trees, it is a library. Every ancient trunk is a book containing centuries of climate data, pest strategies, and survival tactics. When we clear-cut a forest and replant it with a single species of young trees, we are burning the library. We are creating a society of orphans with no elders to guide them. These plantation forests are often fragile and dumb compared to the wild ones. To understand the intelligence of this network, look at the humble slime mold. In a famous experiment, scientists placed a slime mold on a map of Tokyo, with oat flakes representing major stations. Within hours, the mold grew a network of tubes to connect the food sources. The pattern it created was nearly identical to the actual Tokyo subway system, designed by human engineers over decades. The mold solved the complex mathematical problem without a brain. If a simple slime mold can design an efficient transport network in a few hours, imagine what a global mycelium network can calculate over millions of years. This intelligence without a brain is fundamentally different from ours. It doesn't use logic or language. It uses geometry and resource optimization. It finds the shortest path, the strongest bond, the most efficient flow. It is the intelligence of physics itself, manifesting through biology. Network theorists have analyzed the Wood Wide Web and found it shares the same scale-free topology as the human internet or the neural map of the brain. It has hubs, nodes, and redundant pathways. If one line is cut, the information reroutes. This resilience allows the forest to survive catastrophic damage. It is a decentralized system where no single tree is in charge, yet the whole system behaves with a unified purpose. However, like the internet, the network is vulnerable if you target the hubs. If you remove the mother trees, the connectivity of the entire forest collapses. The signal drops. The remaining trees become isolated islands, unable to share resources or warnings. They become weaker, more susceptible to disease. The structural integrity of the forest depends on these ancient connections. It is a fragile web that holds the weight of the ecosystem. Recent studies have even detected electrical spikes in mycelium that resemble the action potentials of human neurons. Some fungi generate trains of electrical pulses that look suspiciously like language. Mathematical analysis suggests they might use up to 50 distinct words to describe the environment. Are they just signaling food or danger? Or is there a poetry to the fungal language that we are too primitive to understand? The silence of the forest is only a limitation of our ears. If we could tune into their frequency, the ground beneath us would be a cacophony of chatter. Water found in Sector 4, insect attack in the north, drought warning, closed stomata. It is a constant stream of news, trading, and negotiation. We walk through this loud marketplace, thinking it is a place of peace, simply because we are deaf to the frequency of the earth. The barrier between us and them is time. We live in the fast lane. Our neurons fire in milliseconds. The forest thinks in seasons. A decision to change direction might take a root tip a week to make, but slow thinking is not the absence of thinking. In fact, slow thinking might be deeper. Unburdened by the rush of immediate reaction, the forest contemplates the long game. Its strategies for the next century, not the next minute. To the trees, we are like frantic sparks, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. We are too fast to be relevant. They have stood here before our civilizations rose, and they plan to be here after we fall. Their perception of reality is vast and slow, a deep rhythmic meditation that spans eons. We are the glitch in their timeline. They are the constant observers, recording the rise and fall of species in their rings. As we zoom out, we realize this network doesn't stop at the edge of the forest. It continues under the grasslands, the tundras, and even the deserts. It is a planetary membrane. Some scientists propose the Gaia hypothesis, the idea that the entire Earth functions as a single, self-regulating organism. The mycelium is the fascia, the connective tissue that holds the planetary body together. We are living on the skin of a giant. This perspective shifts our role entirely. We are not the masters of the Earth. We are part of its microbiome. Sometimes beneficial, sometimes parasitic. The network reacts to our presence. It sequesters the carbon we emit. It filters the water we pollute. It is constantly trying to maintain homeostasis, to keep the patient alive despite the fever we are causing. The Earth is working hard to balance the equation we keep trying to break. But the network's influence isn't just underground. It extends into the air we breathe. Every year, millions of tons of fungal spores are released into the atmosphere. They float in the wind, acting as nuclei for rain clouds to form. The fungi literally call down the rain to water the forests they build. They engineer the weather to suit their needs. They are terraforming the planet in real time, ensuring their own survival in ours. So who is really in charge? The humans building cities, or the fungi building the atmosphere? As we close this chapter on the keepers of memory, we must ask, what happens when this network decides we are a threat? In the next part, we will explore the dark forest, the aggressive chemical warfare that wages silently in the dark, and the terrifying efficiency of the fungal immune system. The peace of the woods is about to be broken. We often romanticize nature as a harmonious paradise, a Garden of Eden where every creature lives in balance. But this is a green lie. If you strip away the poetic silence, the forest is actually a brutal slow-motion battlefield. Every organism here is fighting a desperate war for space, light, and nutrients. The wood wide web is not just a trade route. It is also a vector for chemical warfare, espionage, and assassination. The trees are not peaceful pacifists. They are territorial warlords. They are locked in an arms race that has lasted for millions of years. Because they cannot run away from their enemies, they have developed weapon systems that are terrifyingly efficient. They fight with chemistry instead of claws. The air you breathe in a pine forest, that fresh, sharp scent, is actually an accumulation of airborne toxins designed to kill bacteria and repel grazers. Consider the black walnut tree. It is the botanical equivalent of a serial killer. Its roots pump a toxic chemical called juglone into the soil. This poison spreads through the fungal network and inhibits the respiration of other plants. It literally suffocates its neighbor's roots to ensure no one steals its water. If you try to grow a tomato plant near a black walnut, it will wilt and die within days. This is allelopathy, gardening by genocide. This ruthless strategy creates a zone of death around the tree, a private kingdom secured by chemical borders. It challenges our moral projection onto nature. We want trees to be the good guys, but in the underground, there is no morality, only survival. The network transmits these toxins just as easily as it transmits sugar. The fungal web is a mercenary. It will carry the poison for the highest bidder, indifferent to the victim. When you mow your lawn, you smell that distinct fresh-cut grass scent. To us, it is the smell of summer. To the plant world, it is a scream of agony. That smell is a complex cocktail of volatile organic compounds, a distress beacon broadcast to the entire neighborhood. "I am under attack. Save yourselves." The grass is warning its roots to pull nutrients down and advising neighbors to ramp up their chemical defenses against the invisible predator. But it gets more sophisticated. Some plants, when eaten by caterpillars, analyze the saliva of the attacker. They then release a specific scent designed to attract the exact species of parasitic wasp that lays its eggs inside that caterpillar. The plant is calling in air support. It is hiring a hitman to eliminate the threat. This is interspecies communication used as a weapon of war. The plant is manipulating the animal kingdom to fight its battles. On the African savanna, the acacia tree faces the giraffe. When a giraffe starts eating its leaves, the tree tastes the damage and immediately pumps tannins into its leaves, making them bitter and toxic within minutes. The giraffe knows this, so it moves to the next tree, but it never goes downwind. It always walks upwind. Why? Because the attacked tree releases ethylene gas into the wind, warning the downwind neighbors to arm themselves before the giraffe arrives. The giraffes have learned the physics of the tree's communication network. It is a chess match between a mammal and a plant, played out over evolutionary time. The trees are talking and the animals are eavesdropping. This proves that plants have a form of behavior, a reactive intelligence that solves problems in real time. They are not static objects. They are slow-moving animals that just happen to be made of wood. The fungi themselves are not always the benevolent traders. Some are vicious hunters. The oyster mushroom, a common edible fungus, is actually a carnivore. Growing in nitrogen-poor wood, it needs protein. So its mycelium sets microscopic traps, tiny lassos, and sticky knobs. When a nematode worm crawls through the soil and touches the trap, the fungus constricts, crushing the worm. It then releases enzymes to digest the animal alive from the inside out. The hunter becomes the hunted. The soil is a horror movie where the scenery eats the actors. This predatory behavior turns the peaceful decomposer narrative on its head. Fungi are opportunistic survivors. If the trees stop paying them in sugar, they will find other ways to eat, even if it means murder in the microscopic wildlife of the forest floor. The network is hungry, and it is not picky about where the calories come from. Look up at the canopy of a mature forest. You might notice a phenomenon called crown shyness. The branches of neighboring trees almost touch, but stop just inches apart, creating river-like channels of sky between them. It looks like a jigsaw puzzle that hasn't been snapped together. This is social distancing practiced by trees. By not touching, they prevent the spread of leaf-eating insect larvae and abrasive damage from wind. They effectively respect each other's personal space to maintain the health of the collective. But it also serves as a quarantine measure. If one tree gets a fungal infection on its leaves, the gap prevents it from jumping to the neighbor. It is a physical firewall. While their roots are tangled in an intimate embrace underground, their crowns remain stoically apart. It is a duality of connection and isolation that keeps the forest healthy. However, the underground connection has a fatal flaw. The same fungal highways that transport nutrients can also transport viruses. If a disease hijacks the fungal network, it can spread through the forest like a computer virus out a LAN network. The Wood Wide Web becomes a superhighway for death. This is the risk of total connectivity. When you are plugged into everything, you are vulnerable to everything. To counter this, trees have developed circuit breakers. If a tree detects a lethal pathogen in the network, it can self-amputate its connection to the mycelium. It creates a cork barrier, sealing off its roots, choosing isolation over death. it effectively goes offline to save itself. This ability to modulate their connection, to log in and log out, suggests a level of autonomy. They are part of the collective, but they still prioritize self-preservation. Sometimes, the war escalates to total destruction. Fire is often seen as the enemy of the forest, but for some species, it is the only way to be born. The jack pine has cones that are sealed shut with resin. They will not open for rain, wind, or time. They only open when exposed to the extreme heat of a forest fire. They are designed to wait for the apocalypse. The death of the parent tree is the trigger for the birth of the child. This phoenix strategy ensures that the seeds fall onto a bed of ash, which is rich in nutrients and cleared of competitors. The tree weaponizes the disaster. It bets its entire genetic future on a catastrophe. This turns the forest into a cycle where destruction is a creative force. The fire is not an end. It is a violent reset button that the forest pushes itself. The ecosystem depends on these periodic purges to stay young. After the smoke clears, the succession begins. The first to rise are the ferns and grasses, then the pioneer trees like birch and aspen. They grow fast, live short lives, and prepare the soil for the slow giants that will follow. It is a predictable sequence of regimes, one dynasty replacing another. The forest is never finished. It is a constant state of becoming. What looks like a stable landscape to us is actually a slow-motion riot of succession. This relentless drive to grow, to cover every inch of bare earth, is the heartbeat of the planet. The forest abhors a vacuum. If you leave a parking lot abandoned, the network will reclaim it within decades. Concrete is temporary. Roots are patient. We build our civilization in the clearings, constantly fighting back the green tide. But the moment we stop maintaining our borders, the forest will return to bury our history. We have explored the mechanics, the memory, and the wars of this invisible city. But there is one final frontier, the interface between them and us. Throughout history, humans have sought to plug into this network. Shamans and healers have used the chemical compounds of the forest, specifically the psychedelic fungi, to speak with nature. Is this just a hallucination, or is it a chemical key that unlocks a dormant modem in our brains? In the next part, we will dive into the most controversial aspect of the fungal kingdom, psilocybin and the stoned ape hypothesis. Did these mushrooms catalyze the evolution of human consciousness? Are we just another node in the network that woke up and forgot where it came from? We are about to dissolve the boundary between the observer and the observed. Prepare to enter the mind of the mushroom. This chemical interface is not a coincidence. If you look at the molecular structure of psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms, it is nearly identical to serotonin, the neurotransmitter that regulates our mood and perception. It is like a key cut for a specific lock inside the human brain. When a primate ingests this fungus, the chemical doesn't just digest. It docks into the serotonin receptors and unlocks the dormant software suite. This suggests a biochemical affinity between two very different kingdoms. Why would a fungus evolving in cow dung produce a complex molecule that fits perfectly into the synaptic cleft of a human brain? Some evolutionary biologists argue this is a trap, a poison to deter eating. But others, like Terence McKenna, proposed a far more radical idea, that this interaction was the spark that ignited the explosion of human consciousness. This is the stoned ape hypothesis. It posits that as early hominids were forced out of the drying forests and onto the grasslands, they began foraging for new food sources. They found mushrooms growing in the dung of ungulates. In low doses, These fungi improved visual acuity, making the apes better hunters. In higher doses, they dissolve the boundaries of the ego and stimulate the language centers of the primitive brain. McKenna argued that this dietary addition acted as a chemical catalyst. It forced the brain to process information in new, synesthetic ways. Sounds became images. Thoughts became vocalizations. It may have been the push that turned a grunt into a word and a tribe into a society. The mushroom didn't give us intelligence, but it might have been the environmental trigger that forced our rapidly expanding hardware to run a new operating system. Modern neuroscience is beginning to validate the mechanics of this theory. fMRI scans of brains on psilocybin show something remarkable. The default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for your ego, your self-narrative, and your rigid patterns, shuts down. Meanwhile, communication between unconnected regions explodes. The brain becomes a hyper-connected fluid state, similar to the mind of a young child. It is a temporary reset. This entropy allows the brain to escape its rigid loops. It explains why these compounds are showing promise in treating depression and PTSD. They physically rewire the brain, allowing the user to step outside their own story. If this happened to early humans repeatedly over thousands of years, it could have dissolved the rigid social hierarchies of the ape troop, fostering the communal bonding and empathy required to build the first human cultures. We see echoes of this relationship in our oldest art. The cave paintings of Tassili Najjar in Algeria, dated to 5000 BC, depict beheaded shamans running with mushrooms sprouting from their bodies. These are the oldest recordings of the interface. It suggests that religion didn't start with a book. It started with a botanist. The divine was not something you believed in. It was something you ate and experienced directly in the dark. This direct experience of the other is central to shamanism worldwide. The shaman is the technician of the sacred, using the fungus to leave the body and retrieve information for the tribe where the game is hiding, which herbs heal, or how to resolve a conflict. It was a functional technology. The mushroom was the original search engine, a way to access a database of wisdom that seemed to exist outside the individual's limited experience. But what is the voice that people hear in these states? Is it just a hallucination, or is it the voice of the Mycelium Network itself? Many users report a distinct feeling of contact with a Gaian intelligence, a planetary consciousness that is old, wise, and often critical of human behavior. It is a humbling thought. Perhaps we are not the only intelligent life on Earth. We are just the only ones who won't shut up long enough to listen. If the network is indeed a planetary brain, then these mushrooms might be its microphone. They allow the biosphere to communicate with its most destructive tenant, us. The message is almost always the same. You are destroying the home. You are not separate from nature. You are nature. It is a desperate distress signal sent from the soil to the primate, trying to correct our behavior before we render the planet uninhabitable. However, we must remain cautious. Fungi are masters of manipulation. Look at the cordyceps fungus. It infects an ant, hijacks its nervous system, and forces the ant to climb to a high leaf and bite down the perfect spot for the fungus to burst out and spread spores. The ant is a puppet. The fungus is the puppeteer. While psilocybin doesn't kill us, it certainly modifies our behavior. Are we symbionts, or are we just useful vehicles? From the mushroom's perspective, humans are an excellent strategy. We cultivate them, protect them from predators, and spread their spores globally. By tinkering with our serotonin receptors, they have domesticated us. We think we are using them to expand our minds, but perhaps they are using us to expand their territory. It is a co-evolutionary dance where it is unclear who is leading and who is following. The power dynamic is ambiguous. This co-evolution goes back to the very beginning. Fungi were the first organisms to conquer the land, paving the way for plants. It is hypothesized that the separation of animals from fungi occurred much later than the separation from plants. In terms of DNA, you are more closely related to a mushroom than you are to a tree. We are effectively distinct branches of the same epistigot family tree. We are fungal bodies that learn to walk. This deep biological kinship explains why fungal infections are so hard to treat in humans. Antibiotics kill bacteria, but they don't touch fungi. Antifungals often harm the host because our cells are so similar to theirs. We are fighting our own cousins. This biological proximity is likely why their chemical keys fit our locks so well. We share a common ancestor that lived in the primordial mud, dreaming of a future where it would split in two. Leaving the ancient past, we find that fungi are now poised to save our future. This is the age of microremediation. We have discovered strains of fungi that can eat plastic, digest oil spills, and even absorb radiation. In Chernobyl, fungi are growing on the walls of the ruined reactor, feeding on the gamma rays. They are the ultimate alchemists, capable of transmuting our toxic waste into organic matter. They clean up our messes. This ability to adapt to any food source is their superpower. If we can harness this, we can solve the pollution crisis. Imagine landfills digested by giant fungal mats, turning trash into soil within months. Imagine insulation made of mycelium bricks, fireproof, non-toxic, and grown rather than manufactured. We are on the brink of a mycelial revolution where biology replaces industry. The network is offering us a second chance. The potential extends beyond Earth. NASA is currently researching microarchitecture for Mars habitats. Instead of carrying heavy metal structures to the red planet, we could carry a few grams of dormant fungal spores. Upon arrival, we feed them Martian dust and water, and they grow into rigid, radiation-shielding habitats. We would literally grow our homes on alien worlds. The first buildings on Mars might be made of mushrooms. This brings the story full circle. The organism that likely terraformed the Earth 400 million years ago, preparing it for life, might be the same organism that allows us to terraform other planets. They are the cosmic engineers. We are merely the carriers, the spores of consciousness hitching a ride on the fungal prowess. They have been waiting for us to develop the technology to take them to the stars. As we near the end of our journey, the distinction between human and fungus begins to blur. We are walking ecosystems, dependent on their soil, breathing their air, and perhaps thinking thoughts catalyzed by their chemistry. The wood wide web is not just under our feet. It is woven into our history and our future. We are not alone on this planet. We never were. We are just one node in a much larger system. But if fungi are the architects of life, could they also be the architects of the afterlife? In the final chapter, we will explore the most profound role of the mycelium, the great recycling of the soul. We will look at how they manage the transition from life to death, and why the end of your consciousness might just be the beginning of theirs. Prepare for the final descent into the Necrosphere. We are terrified of decay. We seal our dead in concrete and chemicals, trying to pause the clock. But in the forest, decay is celebrated. It is the engine of the ecosystem. Welcome to the Necrosphere, the layer of reality where death is dismantled and repurposed. Without this layer, the world would be a stagnant graveyard of perfect, preserved corpses. Fungi are the gatekeepers here. They are the only ones with the keys to unlock the dead. This is not a passive process. A rotting log is more alive than a living tree. It is a bustling city of bacteria, insects, and mycelium, all working in a frenzy. The fungi release powerful enzymes that dissolve the tough lignin and cellulose of the wood materials that no animal on Earth can digest. They are performing a chemical magic trick, turning hard, dead wood into soft, fertile soil. They are the grand alchemists of the natural world. Think of a tree as a bank vault. For centuries, it hoards carbon, nitrogen, and minerals, locking them away in its trunk. When it falls, that wealth is trapped. If it stayed there, the forest would starve. The mycelium acts as the safecracker. It breaks into the vault and redistributes the wealth back to the community. Your own body is just a loan from this bank. You are a temporary collection of atoms that the fungi will eventually reclaim. It is a humbling realization that we do not own our biology. We are simply borrowing these atoms from the Earth's crust for 70 or 80 years. The mycelium ensures that the loan is repaid with interest. In this view, there is no such thing as waste in nature. Everything is food for something else. The end of your story is simply the beginning of a mushroom story. It is a seamless baton pass in the relay race of existence. Sometimes, this process of death creates its own light. Walk through a deep forest on a moonless night, and you might see foxfire, rotting wood glowing with a ghostly green light. This is bioluminescence created by fungi consuming decaying wood. It is the literal light of death. Why do they glow? Perhaps to attract insects to spread their spores, or perhaps it is just a metabolic side effect. But it serves as a reminder there is energy in the darkness. This spectral glow has fueled folklore for millennia, from will-o'-the-wisps to fairy circles. Our ancestors feared these lights, thinking they were spirits of the dead. In a way, they were right. It is the energy of the dead tree being released back into the photon stream. The forest is burning its dead, and a slow, cold fire, illuminating the path for the living. It is a lighthouse on the shores of the afterlife, signaling that nothing is truly lost. Dig your hands into the soil after a rainstorm. That rich, earthy smell you love? That is geosmin, a chemical compound produced by dying bacteria and fungi. Humans are incredibly sensitive to it. We can detect it at lower concentrations than a shark can detect blood. Why did we evolve to love the smell of rot? Because it signals fertile ground, water, and life. Our instincts tell us that where the fungi are working, the earth is healthy. This scent is the perfume of the Necrosphere. It triggers a primal nostalgia in you because it is the smell of our origins. We came from the dirt, and we rely on it for every calorie we consume. The soil is not just a surface. It is the digestive system of the planet. It processes the past to create the future. When you smell petrichor, you are smelling the gears of the great recycling machine turning beneath your feet, grinding bones into bread. Modern burial practices fight against this cycle. We pump bodies with formaldehyde, which is toxic to the soil. We are the only species that refuses to give back. But a new movement is emerging: green burial and the mushroom death suit. This suit is lined with fungal spores, specially trained to digest human tissue and neutralize the toxins in our bodies. It allows us to return to the earth cleanly, becoming compost rather than a hazard. This idea terrifies the ego but comforts the soul. It is the ultimate act of reunion. Instead of being locked in a box, you become a tree, a flower, a patch of moss. Your consciousness fades, but your biological utility continues. The fungi ensure that your death contributes to the life of the forest. You effectively become part of the wood wide web, entering the network not as an observer, but as a resource and a memory in the soil. This reclaiming power extends to our civilizations too. Look at Chernobyl or the temples of Angkor Wat. The moment we step away, the fungi and the roots move in. They crack the stone, eat the paint, and digest the iron. They are the great levelers. They remind us that our concrete permanence is an illusion. The earth has a default setting, and that setting is forest. We are just a temporary glitch that the mycelium is waiting to correct. There is a peace in this inevitability. It means that no matter how much damage we do, the earth will eventually heal itself. It might take 1,000,000 years, but the fungi will break down our plastics and our poisons. They are the planet's immune system, slowly working to remove the infection. We can choose to work with them and survive, or fight them and be digested by history. The network is patient. It has nowhere else to be. Every ending in the fungal world is a dispersal. A single mushroom can release billions of spores in a day. These microscopic travelers can float in the stratosphere, cross oceans, and survive in the vacuum of space. They are the most resilient biological units on Earth. They are waiting for the right moment, the right drop of water, to start the cycle all over again. They represent the infinite potential hidden in the microscopic. This dispersal strategy ensures that life is ubiquitous. There's no place on Earth sterile enough to escape them. They are in the clouds, in the deep sea vents, and inside your lungs right now. We live in a soup of fungal potential. It connects the macro to the micro. The giant redwood tree begins with a relationship between a tiny seed and a microscopic thread. The grandeur of nature is built on the shoulders of the invisible. Physics tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. The Necrosphere is the laboratory where this transformation happens. The heat of your body, the electrical impulses of your thoughts, the chemical potential of your muscles, all of it is simply energy on loan. When the lease expires, the fungi facilitate the return of the capital. It is the first law of thermodynamics in action, orchestrated by biological agents. In this sense, you are a fluid event, not a solid object. You are a whirlpool in a river of matter. The water flows through, holds the shape of the whirlpool for a moment, and then moves on. The fungi control the flow of the river. They decide when the whirlpool forms and when it dissolves. Embrace in this fluidity cures the fear of death. We are not separate from the universe. We are a behavior of the universe, managed by the web. So the wood wide web is not just a biological curiosity. It is the fundamental infrastructure of life on land. It connects the living to the dead, the big to the small, the past to the future. It challenges our concept of individuality. If a forest acts as one being, communicating and sharing, are we wrong to see ourselves as separate? Perhaps the self is just a useful illusion, and the network is the only true reality. We are waking up to this truth. The science of ecology is shifting from studying objects to studying relationships. We are realizing that you cannot save the tiger without saving the jungle, and you cannot save the jungle without saving the fungus. It is a house of cards, and the fungi are the table it stands on. Pull them out, and the whole show comes crashing down. Our survival depends on respecting the invisible workers in the mud. As we prepare to conclude this journey, we are left with a new vision of the world. It is not a collection of isolated things, but a single, breathing, thinking tangle of connections. We have seen the communication, the wars, the history, and the recycling. We have looked into the mind of the mushroom and seen a reflection of our own neural networks. The question is no longer, are they intelligent, but are we smart enough to listen? In the final part of our documentary, we will look forward. What is the future of this relationship? How can we use fungal technology to heal the planet, cure our diseases, and perhaps even save us from ourselves? And finally, we will leave you with a thought that will linger long after you close your eyes tonight. The final connection is about to be made. Join us for the conclusion of the Wood Wide Web. We are standing at the threshold of a fungal revolution. Scientists are now growing leather from mycelium that is stronger and more sustainable than animal hide. We are printing meat replacements that taste exactly like steak but require zero slaughter. This is the new industrial revolution, but this time, the factories are alive. We are moving from extracting resources to cultivating them, partnering with the ancient builders of the soil. This biofabrication changes the game. Imagine packaging that protects your computer during shipping, but decomposes in your garden in a week. No more styrofoam lasting for 10,000 years. We are learning to speak the language of the fungus to grow our future. We are asking the network to build our world for us, and it is answering with remarkable efficiency. It is the end of the make, use, trash economy and the birth of a circular one. The medical potential is equally staggering. Fungi have been fighting bacteria for millions of years. They are the original pharmacists. Penicillin changed the world, but we have barely scratched the surface. New fungal compounds are showing promise against superbugs, cancer, and even viral pandemics. The cure for our worst diseases might be hiding in a mold growing on a rotting log in the Amazon, waiting for us to find it before we burn the forest down. But the healing isn't just physical. As we discussed, the psychedelic renaissance is treating the sickness of the soul. Psilocybin is resetting brains broken by trauma and addiction. It seems the fungi have a vested interest in keeping us healthy and sane. Perhaps a healthy human population is beneficial to the network. We are the carriers of their spores, the guardians of their forests. They are healing us so we can heal the world. However, the network is under siege. Climate change and deforestation are tearing the web apart. As soil temperatures rise, the delicate fungal threads dry out and die. When the network breaks, the forest loses its immune system. Trees die faster, releasing more carbon, which heats the planet further. It is a terrifying feedback loop. We are killing the very mechanism that regulates the Earth's breath. The brain of the forest is suffering a stroke. Industrial agriculture is another enemy. Tilling the soil tears the mycelium to shreds. Chemical fertilizers make the plants lazy. They stop trading with fungi because they get free food from the farmer. This breaks the ancient symbiosis. We are turning living, intelligent soil into dead dirt. It serves only as a substrate. We are severing the connection that has sustained life on land for 400 million years. The silence underground is growing. But it is not too late. The solution is regenerative agriculture. By not tilling the soil and planting cover crops, we can heal the network. We can restitch the web. When we restore the fungi, the carbon capture of the soil skyrockets. A healthy fungal network can lock away gigatons of carbon, buying us time against climate change. The answer to our atmospheric crisis lies beneath our feet. We just need to stop destroying the infrastructure. This requires a shift in our philosophy. We must stop seeing ourselves as the conquerors of nature and start acting as the custodians of the web. Every time you step into a forest, remember you are walking on a living nervous system. Tread lightly. Leave the dead wood to rot. let the mushrooms grow. These are small acts of respect for the giants that support us. The network notices everything, even the footfalls of a single primate. We often ask, are we alone in the universe? We look to the stars for intelligent life, ignoring the alien intelligence beneath our lawn. The Wood Wide Web proves that we are not the only conscious entities here. We share this planet with a mind that is older, larger, and more resilient than we are. It is a humbling correction to our human arrogance. We are not the main characters of this story. We are just a recent plot twist. This realization should not scare us, it should comfort us. It means we are part of a team. We don't have to manage the biosphere alone. We have a silent partner who knows exactly how to run the life support systems. Our job is simply to listen to the partner and stop sabotaging the machinery. The moment we align our technology with their biology, we enter a new era of abundance. The symbiotic era awaits us. Alternately, the Wood Wide Web teaches us that independence is a myth. Nothing exists in isolation. An atom is defined by its relationship to other atoms. A human is defined by their connection to others. We are nodes in a social network, just like the trees. The pain of one is felt by the whole. If we adopt the ethics of the forest, sharing with the weak, protecting the young, recycling the dead, we might just survive our own adolescence. The mycelium is a physical manifestation of the spiritual truth that all is one. It is the connective tissue of the soul of the world. When you hurt the web, you hurt yourself. When you heal the web, you heal yourself. This is the deep ecology that we must embrace. We are the fooding bodies of the earth, distinct for a moment in the sun, but forever rooted in the same common ground. We are the forest looking at itself. As we zoom out one last time, imagine the universe itself as a web. Dark matter connects galaxies in vast filaments that look exactly like mycelium. The structure of the cosmos mirrors the structure of the soil. Is this a coincidence? Or is it a fundamental law of geometry that governs everything from the brain cell to the galaxy cluster? We are living inside a fractal, repeating the same pattern of connection at every scale of existence. This cosmic web suggests that the universe favors connection. It favors the network. To be disconnected is to be dead. To be connected is to be alive. We are currently the most disconnected society in history, isolated in our digital silos. We need to relearn the wisdom of the world. We need to log off the digital web and log back into the biological one. The password has been written in our DNA all along. As you lay in the dark tonight, remember the world beneath your floorboards. While you sleep, the network is awake. It is pulsing, trading, eating, and growing. It is holding the soil together so your house doesn't slide away. It is filtering the water you will drink in the morning. It is a tireless guardian, working in the dark to ensure there is a world for you to wake up to. You are never truly alone. The silence of the night is not empty. It is full of listening. The trees are talking to the fungi are talking to the soil, and the soil is talking to the roots. It is a lullaby that has been sung for 1 billion years. Let yourself drift into that stream. You are part of the web. You are safe in the network. The ghost in the machine is friendly, and it knows your name. Sleep well, knowing the earth is holding you. The Wood Wide Web is a reminder that the invisible is often more powerful than the visible. We hope this journey into the secret mind of the forest has shifted your perspective. If you look at a tree tomorrow and see not just wood, but a living, feeling node of a global brain, then our mission is complete. The world is magic if you just know where to look. Thank you for joining us in the dark. If this story connected with you, leave a comment below and tell us, do you think the forest is conscious? Or are we just projecting our own minds onto the mud? We read every thought you share. Until the next time we venture down the rabbit hole, keep your mind open and let the nightlight guide your dreams. Good night.